Hi there, my name's Chris Winter, and in this video I'm going to go through some of the best cameras for under $800, so hopefully I can figure out which camera might be best for you and for your budget. And guys, also definitely make sure to check out my brand new list that I just made, the best cameras for travel. I go through some of the cameras that would be best for you, so if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description box below this video and you can take a look. But anyway, let's now talk about some of these cameras and some other cameras, so hopefully we can help find which camera might be right for you. So today's question says, hey Chris, I've been using my Canon T4i to film my tech channel and to do some photography with for the last few years. I want to get a new camera for about $800 to $850. What would you suggest for me? Well, that's really cool. I actually used the Canon T4i for quite a long time as well. I think it's a really good camera, but you're right, if you do step up to a slightly higher budget, you're going to be getting a couple of really nice features such as a faster burst rate in stills mode. You're going to be getting really good quality autofocus on a couple of these cameras. You might even be able to get 4K for that price as well. So we'll talk about some of these cameras and a couple of other cameras that I would recommend coming up. So one of the very first cameras that I would recommend is a new camera, and it's this one right here. It's the Canon M50, and it is actually a very new camera. It only came out a few weeks ago, and it's definitely one of my favorites so far. This Canon M50 is a mirrorless camera as opposed to a DSLR camera like you're seeing here, and that means essentially that we don't have a mirror on the inside here. We've got the sensor directly here, and this means that you can get this camera quite a lot smaller than these DSLRs. You can see that this camera here has a 15 to 45mm lens, and it's still very small. You could probably even fit this into a jacket. Now, there's a couple of really nice features on this Canon M50 that might be quite good for you, especially for your tech channel. It does shoot in 4K. So all of these cameras here shoot in 1080p. The Canon M50 shoots in 4K with a crop, so it does mean it's going to be slightly zoomed in, but shooting in 4K does mean you're going to be getting a higher resolution. Your videos are going to look sharper. It's a really nice feature to have. The other thing that the Canon M50 has is dual pixel autofocus, which is fantastic. It really does mean that you don't even have to worry about your autofocus or your focus in general because it's very reliable. It's going to produce smooth and cinematic autofocus, and it's got face tracking autofocus that works really well. In fact, I'm using dual pixel face tracking autofocus right now. You can see that as I move in and out, my face stays in focus. I'm shooting on a Canon 70D right now and it works really quite well. The Canon M50 also has a microphone jack, which is really quite important if you are going to be filming yourself for your tech videos. You could throw in something like a Rode Video Micro, just goes on the top here and plugs into the side. You're going to be getting much better audio quality. Overall, the Canon M50 is really quite good. There are a few limiting factors to it. Firstly, it's a EOS M camera, which means it's a mirrorless camera. They've got a different line of lenses, so their lens selection isn't huge. Maybe you're going to be having 10 lenses that you can choose from, but you can actually get something which is an adapter. This is made by Canon as well. This is an adapter which allows you to use your standard EFS lenses on the Canon M50. So you just simply attach it like this, then you can attach it to the camera. So that is one thing that you can definitely look into, and it does work really well with the autofocus, even with those non-standard lenses. So the M50 is definitely one you could take a look at. Another camera that I really like is the Panasonic G7, and this is definitely one you could look at, especially if you want to up your video game. The G7 is very popular with a lot of tech YouTubers as well because it shoots in 4K as well, just like the M50 does. It's got a flip out screen, it's got a microphone jack. Its autofocus isn't as good as the Canon M50, but for a lot of sit down videos, similar to what I'm doing right now, it's going to be more than enough. The great thing about the G7 is its price. You can pick it up for around about $450, sometimes even cheaper if you're going to be getting it on something like Black Friday, or Amazon often have deals on it. I'll put a link in the description box below, but I really do like the Panasonic G7. And again, it's got a great selection of lenses, so it could be a good option for your growth as well. Nikon have a couple of really nice cameras that I like, starting off with the Nikon D3400. This is probably going to be slightly under your budget, but it's a great camera, especially for stills. Not as much for video because it doesn't have a flip out screen and the autofocus isn't great. The video quality is quite nice, but without those other things, it's not perfect for that. But for stills photography, it is really good. But you should definitely take a look at the Nikon D5600, which is actually quite a lot better than the D3400 in terms of for video work because it does have that flip out screen, which really does make things a lot better. In fact, it's actually got a smaller body than the Nikon D3400, which is something quite surprising. But overall, I was very impressed with the Nikon D5600. It is a little bit more expensive than the D3400, but I think you will like that one, especially if you do want to be in the Nikon system. You might want to change over from Canon. Speaking about Canon, we do have a couple more cameras here on the table. The 200D or the SL2 is a really good camera. I talk about it quite often because it is the most popular beginner camera on the market at the moment. It is a beginner camera, but it definitely doesn't have beginner features. It's got lots of nice features. Dual pixel autofocus, the same as the Canon M50. It's got a nice flip out screen, a touch screen as well. It shoots really nice stills as well, and the autofocus is quite good in stills as well. And it's got that microphone jack, which is again going to be really quite important for you. It's essentially a baby 70D or 80D, and I do have a Canon 70D right here. This is quite similar to the Canon 80D, which is a little bit newer than it. But this camera here is going to be a lot bigger, a lot beefier, and this could be an option for you as well. Your budget's $800 to $850. You're not going to be able to get a new Canon 80D for that price, but you will be able to get a Canon 70D for sure for that price. You can often actually pick these up for around about $600 used, or even cheaper as well. If you can, maybe pick up a Canon 80D. The reason why I would get an 80D over a 70D, if you are going to be doing a lot of video, you're going to be able to have that headphone jack, which is fantastic. A headphone jack's really important if you're going to be making documentaries or a lot of video work, because you can monitor that audio and make sure it's perfect. The 70D has all the features of the Canon 80D really. It's just missing that headphone jack, and it's got a little bit of a different design, but overall they're very, very similar. You can also definitely take a look at the Sony cameras. Now, Sony make a couple of really great cameras, the Sony a6300, a6500, or even the Sony a6000. That Sony a6000 is a very popular camera because it's really quite cheap these days and does have a lot of nice features. The difference between the a6300 and the a6500 is that they're going to be shooting in 4K, which could be something that you want to get. But again, one of the reasons why I generally don't shoot with Sony myself is because lenses are a little bit harder to come by. They don't have as many lenses as the likes of Nikon or Canon or even Panasonic, but definitely take a look at them. A lot of people do like Sony, and they are fantastic cameras as well if you are interested in Sony. You can also look at something like the Panasonic GM1 or the GM5. These are great smaller cameras. You can really see the size difference of a GM1 versus the Nikon camera here, or even the Canon cameras. These ones are a little bit harder to find, but you could definitely take a look at them on places like eBay and Amazon. So there you go, guys. They were a couple of cameras under $800, or roughly around $800. Hopefully I was able to help you even just a little bit. And guys, also definitely make sure to check out my brand new list that I just made, the best cameras for travel. I go through some of the cameras that would be best for you. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description box below this video and you can take a look. That's it for me today. Hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.